and it's a mouse in my salad!
You walk into Walmart thinking you're buying food. Safe, affordable, dependable. But what if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Elon Musk are right? What if the shelves we've trusted for decades hide products that, bite by bite, are quietly eroding our health? We're talking about the kinds of items you feed your kids, your grandkids, the everyday staples you never question. Yet behind the bright packaging and friendly prices, there are chemicals banned in other countries, toxins linked to cancer, and contaminants that can linger in your body for years. Here's the part that should stop you cold. The US has weaker safety thresholds than the EU for dozens of additives, meaning food that wouldn't make it past a European border can still sit comfortably in your grocery cart here. How many of those bargains are really just slow-motion health traps? And when the evidence comes from high-profile voices like RFK Jr. and Musk, people who've built reputations on challenging systems, maybe it's time we looked harder at what we're eating. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we're pulling the lid off 9 popular Walmart foods that might be quietly rewriting your health story. Number 1. Marketside celery sticks. Step into the cool glow of Walmart's produce aisle, and there they sit. Marketside celery sticks, tucked neatly into their little plastic homes like they've been waiting just for you. They look so crisp, so clean, like a green light telling you, "Go ahead, take me home. I am the healthy choice." No cutting board, no cleanup, no wasted time. It feels like a small win in a world where wins are harder to come by. Healthy eating without the hassle. Walmart's been selling that dream for years, making us believe that convenience and safety can ride in the same cart. But April of 2025 turned that cart right over. A state lab in Georgia ran a test and found something you'd never see on the label: Listeria monocytogenes. This wasn't some mild inconvenience. It was a microscopic squatter that thrives in the cold, multiplying while your fridge hums along, the very place you thought was protecting your food. Suddenly, those tidy green sticks became a quiet threat, triggering a recall across 28 states. For the strong and healthy, it can mean days of sickness. But for the elderly, pregnant women, or anyone whose immune system is running on fumes, it can mean a hospital bed. Or worse. It's the cruel joke no one laughs at. The healthier the food looks, the sneakier the danger can be. And here's the kicker most folks don't hear until it's too late. The contamination wasn't found before it hit the shelves. No, by the time the alarm sounded, those packs were already in shopping carts, sitting on countertops, maybe even halfway eaten. Picture a giant airport for bacteria, where one dirty conveyor belt can send pathogens flying coast to coast. That's what large-scale produce facilities have become when speed takes the driver's seat over safety. Now toss in the human side of the equation. Throwing away a $3 pack of celery might not break the bank for some, but for anyone counting every penny, it stings. It's one less fresh snack for the week, one more reason to feel like the system doesn't care if you eat clean or not. And trust? That's harder to replace than groceries. For shoppers who've leaned on Walmart as their go-to for years, it's like learning the front porch you've always sat on isn't safe anymore. Still, it's not as simple as pointing a finger at Walmart and calling it greed. This is a business strapped into a race it can't afford to lose. Keeping shelves full, prices low, and trucks moving on time. When the clock runs faster than the cleaning crews, you don't have to be a cynic to know something's going to slip through. That's not just a Walmart problem, it's a system problem. So maybe next time, you grab whole celery hearts and give them a good wash at home. Maybe you wander over to the local farmer's market for carrots or cucumbers from smaller growers. Or maybe you skip pre-cut produce altogether, deciding no slogan is worth the risk. But the nagging thought stays: if something as simple as celery can hide a danger this serious, what else is sitting quietly on those shelves, smiling back at you? And if we can't trust the food we've relied on for decades, what kind of table are we setting for the next generation? One that feeds them, or one that slowly chips away at their health? Number 2. Great value frozen shrimp. Picture this. You're rolling your cart down Walmart's freezer aisle, and there it is, a frosty bag of great value frozen shrimp, practically winking at you. They look plump, pink, and ready for action. In your mind, you're already hearing the sizzle of a skillet, smelling garlic butter, maybe even picturing the grandkids at the table asking for seconds. It's seafood made simple. Restaurant flair without the restaurant bill. Walmart's nailed that pitch for years, selling the dream of affordable luxury to anyone who wants shrimp on a Tuesday without blowing half the week's grocery budget. But February of 2025 tore a hole in that fantasy. Independent lab tests, sparked by NGO investigations into global seafood supply chains, found something ugly hiding in some batches of great value shrimp sourced from Southeast Asia, banned antibiotics and alarming levels of cadmium. Now, cadmium isn't just some harmless trace, it's a heavy metal that likes to stick around in your body, quietly stacking up over the years, linked to kidney damage, brittle bones, and a higher risk of cancer. The antibiotics? Prohibited in both the US and EU because they help create antibiotic-resistant bacteria, the kind that doesn't back down from the strongest meds we've got, contributing to a public health crisis that's already killing over 35,000 Americans each year, and that's just the health side. Dig a little deeper and you hit something even harder to swallow. Human rights reports from late 2024 revealed that parts of the very same export chain supplying this shrimp have been tied to forced labor. Workers trapped on fishing boats described as floating prisons, enduring conditions no one with a conscience could ignore. So that $8.99 bag in your freezer isn't just shrimp. It's a mix of health risk and moral baggage you never bargained for. Here's the part that makes you pause. Unlike bacteria, heavy metals don't vanish in a hot pan. You can sear them, boil them, drown them in butter. It doesn't matter. Every bite is another dose your body doesn't want and can't easily get rid of. And the fact that this wasn't caught by Walmart's own checks, but only after outside groups ran tests, says plenty about where the safety net has holes. It's a harsh truth, but there are ways around it. You can choose US farmed shrimp with a Best Aquaculture Practices certification, sold by certain regional grocers and wholesale clubs. Or spring for wild-caught Gulf shrimp, pricier but with far better traceability and fewer chemical shortcuts. Some folks are swapping shrimp altogether for bay scallops or domestic catfish, both of which come from sources with stronger oversight. The key is in the fine print. Check the country of origin label, look for third-party certifications, and don't be shy about asking where your seafood came from. If your grocer can't answer, that's your signal to put it back. Still, it's worth asking. How did we get here? Walmart isn't out to poison people. They're under the same relentless grind as every major retailer. Move product fast, keep prices low, stay competitive in a market that rewards volume over vigilance. But when the push for profit means things like this slip through, the cost ends up on someone else's plate. Yours. And if the gap between the promise on the package and the reality inside it can be this wide, what does that say about the food chain we've built? Maybe it's time we all looked a little closer before what's hiding in today's dinner becomes tomorrow's regret. Number 3. Freshness Guaranteed chocolate chip cookies. Walk into Walmart on a quiet afternoon and that smell hits you before you even see them. Warm, sweet, and just nostalgic enough to pull you straight back to childhood kitchens. There they are, stacked high in those clear plastic clamshells, each cookie soft, chewy, and practically begging you to take them home. It's the $4 why not splurge, the treat you tell yourself is harmless because, well, it's just cookies. And with a name like Freshness Guaranteed, it's easy to believe someone back there is baking with care. Maybe even picturing a kindly grandma giving each batch her nod of approval. But late in 2024, that warm image crumbled. Consumer Reports and independent advocacy labs tested a spread of store-brand baked goods, and Walmart's chocolate chip cookies were on the table. Literally. What turned up wasn't a homey recipe at all, but something far less comforting: potassium bromate. A flour additive banned in the European Union, the UK, and as of January 2025, even in California. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has flagged it as a possible human carcinogen, with studies linking it to kidney and thyroid tumors in animals. The FDA might allow it, but that doesn't mean it's harmless, especially when no safe level for human consumption has ever been proven. Here's the part that sticks in your teeth. Potassium bromate doesn't always vanish in the oven. Some of it can survive baking, meaning every bite could deliver a measurable dose straight to your system. For older adults or anyone managing chronic conditions, that slow, invisible accumulation over years can tilt the odds in the wrong direction. You can't taste it. You can't smell it. And that's what makes it all the more dangerous. It hides in plain sight, wrapped in the comfort of a dessert you grew up trusting. And Freshness Guaranteed? That's more marketing poetry than reality. Much of this dough is mixed, frozen, and shipped from industrial facilities before it ever reaches the store. In that process, shelf life and cost often beat out ingredient integrity. The result is a processed product dressed in the clothes of a bakery indulgence, carrying an additive your body never asked for and certainly doesn't need. Now, giving up these cookies doesn't mean you give up dessert. You could swing by a local bakery that proudly uses bromate-free flour, or grab a clean ingredient cookie mix. Brands like King Arthur Baking have made it a point to say no to potassium bromate. Or maybe go completely simple. Never toppers, benedrisi, mothwats, mashed bananas, mix in oats and dark chocolate chips, bake for 10 minutes, and you've got cookies with 0 carcinogens and all the satisfaction. The trick is in the habit. Read the label. If you see potassium bromate or bromated flour, set it down, no matter how innocent it looks. Because the bigger question lingers. If a chocolate chip cookie, the most American of comfort foods, can hide a risk like this, how many other safe supermarket favorites are just ticking clocks dressed up as treats? And what does it say about the food system we've allowed when even our small joys come with fine print we can't afford to ignore? Number 4. Walmart Great Value Macaroni and Cheese. You can't talk about American comfort food without mentioning boxed mac and cheese. It's been the kitchen's quick fix hero for decades. Cheap, filling, and ready in less time than it takes to corral the kids to the table. Walmart's Great Value version takes that tradition and dials it straight into budget territory. Same creamy, cheesy satisfaction, but for less than $1. It's the kind of deal that makes you feel like you've outsmarted the system. Why spend more for Kraft's orange nostalgia when Walmart offers nearly the same thing for pocket change? For plenty of households, it's the weeknight safety net, the soft, warm dish that feels like a hug in a bowl. Then March of 2025 rolled in and the picture soured. A joint report from a U.S. food safety nonprofit and a university lab uncovered something you wouldn't expect in a kid-friendly dinner: phthalates. These are industrial chemicals used in plastics, and they have no business in anyone's diet. Yet they were detected in certain batches of Great Value boxed mac and cheese. Classified as endocrine disruptors, phthalates have been linked to reproductive problems, developmental delays in children, and a higher risk of certain cancers. And here's the kicker. They don't just float around harmlessly. They latch onto fats, which means that rich, creamy cheese sauce becomes the perfect delivery system straight into your body. The contamination likely happens in 2 places: during production of the powdered cheese mix, where fatty dairy powders can pick up residue from processing equipment, and in the flexible plastic liners inside the packaging. This isn't the kind of problem heat can solve. You can boil, stir, and melt all you want, but those chemicals aren't going anywhere, and the real sting? Who eats the most of it? Boxed mac and cheese is a staple for families stretching every grocery dollar and for older folks who need something quick, easy to chew, and comforting. That means the people most vulnerable to the health fallout are often the ones getting the biggest dose. Meal after meal, year after year. It's not just about what's in tonight's dinner. It's about how small exposures stack up into a bigger, longer-lasting problem. That doesn't mean mac and cheese has to disappear from your life. Annie's Homegrown Organic Shells and White Cheddar consistently tests lower for phthalates and skips the artificial dyes. Or you can take control of the recipe. Boil your favorite pasta, melt real shredded cheese with a splash of milk, and you've got comfort food without the chemical hitchhikers. Even certain frozen versions from transparent brands can be safer if they use phthalate-free packaging and better equipment. Next time you're in the pasta aisle, check the packaging. Paper-based linings are a good sign, and brands that publish independent contaminant testing show they've got nothing to hide. If a company won't say where their product stands, maybe it's time to leave it on the shelf. Because the bigger question isn't just about mac and cheese, it's about whether the comfort foods we've trusted for decades are quietly rewriting our health without asking permission. And if they are, what else in our grocery carts might be playing the same game? Number 5. Great Value. Ground beef. There's something almost iconic about tossing a big family pack of ground beef into your Walmart cart. It feels tied to backyard barbecues, Sunday chili simmering on the stove, and weeknight spaghetti that can feed a whole table without draining your wallet. This is the working class magic trick. Buy it once, stretch it over burgers, tacos, meatloaf, and feel like you've outsmarted the grocery bill. It's not just meat. It's the foundation of a dozen different dinners, each one holding a piece of American food culture. But in January of 2025, that comfort was cracked wide open. The USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service dropped a Class 1 recall notice on more than 16,000 pounds of Great Value ground beef after routine testing picked up E. coli. 0157:H7, the strain with a reputation for being one of the deadliest foodborne pathogens out there. This isn't the "you'll be fine in a day or two" kind of sickness. It's the one that can spiral into hemolytic uremic syndrome, a form of kidney failure with no guaranteed recovery. Several states reported hospitalizations tied to the product, and health officials weren't mincing words. Do not consume. The thing about E. coli in ground beef is that it's not just bad luck. It's baked into the way large-scale meat production works. With a steak or roast, bacteria live mostly on the surface, and a good sear can kill them. But when meat is ground, the surface becomes the inside. And if just one contaminated trim makes it into a massive grinding batch, that pathogen gets stirred in like sugar in coffee. Walmart's sourcing model, pulling meat from multiple facilities and regions, magnifies the risk. By the time the package lands in your cart, the journey that meat has taken makes tracing a single contamination point nearly impossible. What makes this sting even more is the timing. The recall didn't prevent contaminated meat from reaching shoppers. It was triggered after the beef was already in stores, in freezers, maybe even thawing on kitchen counters. For older shoppers who stock up during sales to stretch a fixed income, that's like having a hidden time bomb waiting behind the freezer door. If you want ground beef without that roulette wheel feeling, the safer play is local. A butcher who grinds meat in-house from whole cuts drastically reduces the risk. Smaller scale options like ground bison or lamb often come from tighter supply chains with less mixing of product. And grinding your own from a whole chuck roast at home? Easier than most people think, and it gives you total control over what's going into your food. Your best personal defenses are straightforward. Cook all ground beef to at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Skip any taste tests before it's fully cooked. And never assume a brown center means safety. Color can lie. Checking the USDA's recall database before stocking up is a habit worth building. E. coli doesn't care about sell-by dates. And maybe that's the bigger truth here. When something as basic, familiar, and beloved as ground beef can carry a microscopic threat that can put you in the ICU, we have to ask whether the real cost of cheap meat has been quietly deducted from our health for years. How many more staples in our kitchens have been making the same withdrawal without us even knowing? Number 6. Marketside Garden Salad Mix. It's the kind of thing that makes you feel like you're doing right by your body. A bright bag of fresh greens, shredded carrots, and a splash of purple cabbage that almost smiles at you through the plastic. Walmart's Marketside Garden Salad Mix has been the go-to. Look at me, I'm eating healthy. Purchase for quick lunches, last-minute potlucks, or setting out a make-your-own salad bar without dirtying a single cutting board. For seniors wanting to boost their greens without the hassle, it feels like an easy win. Healthy eating in the time it takes to open a bag. But June of 2024 brought a gut punch no one saw coming. The CDC and FDA announced that several lots of Marketside salad mixes sold at Walmart were tied to an outbreak of Cyclospora chitinensis, a microscopic parasite that makes itself at home in your small intestine. And this isn't your average wash it and it's fine situation. Cyclospora laughs at your sink rinse. It takes specialized chemical treatments during industrial processing to remove. By the time the recall rolled out, more than 200 people in multiple states had fallen ill, dozens landing in the hospital. The symptoms read like something out of a bad dream. Weeks of relentless diarrhea, fatigue so deep it feels like you're wading through wet cement, and weight loss that's anything but healthy. For older adults or those already dealing with health issues, that combination can knock you flat. The deeper cut came from what the investigation uncovered. It wasn't one bad farm. The contamination was tangled in a web of suppliers spread across several countries, each link in the chain another blind spot for something to slip through. And Cyclospora doesn't just die quietly in cold storage. It can sit there for weeks, waiting patiently for its next host. By the time the mix hits your fridge, the clock is already ticking. What makes it worse is the betrayal. A salad mix isn't supposed to be a gamble. It's the thing you choose when you're actively trying to stay out of the doctor's office. Learning that it carried a parasite feels like discovering your life jacket is filled with lead shot. You don't have to ditch greens completely to sidestep the risk. Buying whole heads of lettuce or cabbage and washing them thoroughly at home. Yes, it takes a little time. Can cut the danger significantly, especially with a vinegar water rinse. If convenience is non-negotiable, look for brands that not only claim triple washed, but back it up. With independent pathogen testing, you can verify online, or get creative for a few meals. Swap the leafy greens for hearty raw vegetables like bell peppers, cucumbers, or radishes. Crunchy, colorful, and less prone to carrying cyclospora. If you're still eyeing bagged salads, make it a habit to scan the FDA's recall list before tossing one in your cart, and never eat them past the best buy date, no matter how fresh they look. Parasites don't come with warning colors, and looks fine can be the most dangerous illusion in the produce aisle, which leaves the question hanging in the air like a cloud over the salad bar. When the very foods we reach for to protect our health are the ones sending us to the ER, how much of the danger is in that bag? And how much is baked into the sprawling, faceless supply system we've let decide what lands on our plates? Number 7. Great value peanut butter. A jar of peanut butter in the pantry feels like a promise that never breaks. It's the sandwich spread that saves you when the fridge is bare. The emergency dinner that asks for nothing more than a slice of bread. The late night comfort straight from the spoon when you just can't be bothered to cook. Walmart's great value peanut butter leans on that trust. It's cheaper than the big brands, but it still promises the same creamy texture and the same nostalgia of childhood lunchboxes. But in October of 2024, that trust was blindsided. The FDA announced a recall of multiple great value peanut butter lots after tests found aflatoxin levels above federal safety limits. Aflatoxins aren't just something you don't want in your food. They're Group 1 human carcinogens, according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, in the same category as asbestos and tobacco smoke, produced by certain molds that grow on peanuts stored in warm, humid conditions. Aflatoxins are linked to liver cancer and can cause acute poisoning in high doses. And unlike bacteria, you can't cook or roast your way out of the danger. These chemical toxins survive the roasting, the grinding, and every step in between. What makes this especially disturbing is how it happens. In large-scale supply chains, peanuts are stored in massive bulk lots. If even part of that crop sits too long in poor conditions, mold can develop and spread. Cutting corners on storage or blending practices means contaminated peanuts can get mixed into perfectly good ones. And once they're ground into butter, there's no separating them. By the time the jar lands in your pantry, it looks fine, smells fine, spreads fine, and quietly carries an invisible cancer risk with every bite. For seniors and budget-conscious shoppers relying on peanut butter as an affordable protein, it's a betrayal that doesn't announce itself until it's far too late. That doesn't mean peanut butter has to disappear from your table. Smaller batch brands that test every batch for aflatoxins and publish those results are out there and often worth the extra $1 or $2. Switching to almond butter or sunflower seed butter is another option. They carry a lower mold risk because of their different growing and storage conditions. And if you're feeling ambitious, making peanut butter at home from freshly roasted peanuts bought from a trusted roaster gives you more control over what you're eating. A little prevention goes a long way. Store nut butters in a cool, dry place and finish the jar within a few months of opening to reduce mold risk. And check the FDA's recall database now and then, especially for store-brand nut butters. Aflatoxin contamination isn't a freak accident, it's a known recurring hazard in the industry. The part that lingers is this. Peanut butter is supposed to be one of the simplest, safest foods we can buy, a staple that's been in American kitchens for generations. If even that can hide a carcinogen you can't taste, see, or smell, how many other safe foods in our cupboards are carrying risks we won't find out about until it's too late? Number 8. Great value canned tuna. For generations, canned tuna has been the dependable protein of tight budgets. Tuna salad for lunch, casseroles on Sunday, or straight from the can when money's thin. Walmart's Great Value tuna promises the same taste for less. But in August of 2024, independent lab tests revealed mercury levels in some batches exceeding both the FDA's 1.0 parts per million limit and the European Union's stricter 0.5 parts per million cap. Mercury is no minor contaminant. It's a neurotoxin linked to memory loss, cognitive decline, and motor impairment, with older adults facing even greater risks like accelerated dementia and heart issues. The danger hides in plain sight. Large tuna accumulate mercury over years, and if suppliers use older, bigger fish, or skip rigorous testing, levels can spike unnoticed. Mercury doesn't fade with time. That can in your pantry carries the same risk next year as today. For families relying on tuna weekly, small exposures stack into long-term harm, often masked by vague symptoms like fatigue or forgetfulness until damage is permanent. Safer bets? Choose skipjack, canned salmon, sardines, or mackerel. lower in mercury, and often more sustainable. Limit tuna to 2 or 3 servings a month and stick with brands that publish testing data. Because if even this humble pantry staple can deliver a hidden neurotoxin, what else is silently eroding the health it claims to support? Number 9. Great value honey. Honey carries a kind of halo, nature's sweetener you picture dripping straight from hive to jar. For older shoppers cutting back on refined sugar, Walmart's Great Value honey seems like an affordable, wholesome choice. But in May of 2025, a multi-state food authenticity investigation revealed several batches were adulterated with rice and corn syrups, a scam known as honey laundering. Tests showed not only dilution, but that much of the honey came from overseas suppliers previously flagged for using chloramphenicol, a banned antibiotic linked to aplastic anemia, a rare but often fatal blood disorder. This isn't just about paying for honey and getting syrup. Adulteration strips away pollen, the part that carries antioxidants and antibacterial benefits, replacing it with cheap sugars that spike blood glucose like table sugar. Worse, chloramphenicol contamination has already triggered import bans in the EU and Canada in past cases. For seniors managing diabetes or weakened immunity, this isn't harmless. It's a direct health risk. Because honey is shelf-stable, tainted jars can sit for years. Safer choices include local raw honey, True Source certified brands, or 100% maple syrup from reputable producers. Avoid ultra-filtered or blended labels. And remember, if honey's price seems too sweet to be real, it probably is. If our everyday foods hide such dangers, what else lurks unseen? Subscribe now and join us in uncovering the truth.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of the newest and best videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.